From struggle to strength. The power of perseverance. So now, since we have been made right in God's sight by faith in His promises, we can have real peace with Him because of what Jesus Christ our Lord has done for us. For because of our faith, He has brought us into this place of highest privilege where we now stand, and we confidently and joyfully look forward to actually becoming all that God has had in mind for us to be. We can rejoice, too, when we run into problems and trials, for we know that they are good for us. They help us learn to be patient. And patience develops strength of character in us and helps us trust God more each time we use it until finally our hope and faith are strong and steady. Romans 5:1-4. In this message, we witnessed the Apostle crafting a magnificent blueprint of the perfect Christian life, all rooted in the foundation of being justified by faith. It blossoms into peace with God, access into grace, and a resolute stance against all adversaries. In our text, he progresses to complete the masterpiece by outlining the genuine Christian attitude towards the future. I have dared to choose such a profound and expansive text because there is a remarkable and intimate connection running throughout the verses, a connection that is only truly appreciated when seen as a whole. So, let us take note: we exult in hope, we boast in tribulation. It is crucial to understand that the original word in these two phrases is rendered differently as rejoice and glory. The latter is a more fitting translation because it signifies not only the feeling of joy but the outward expression of it, particularly through words. Paul believes it is not just possible, but characteristic of a Christian to be stirred by the same emotion when contemplating the bright future hope and enduring the darkness of present sorrows. This is a deep concept. He then proceeds to explain how this can and must be so. He highlights that through a series of outcomes, suffering ultimately leads to a deepening of the hope that has embraced the glory of God. Thus, we are presented with an incredible portrayal of the focal point around which Christian hope entwines, the dual origins from which that hope may arise, and the singular emotion with which Christian individuals should confront both the current gloom and the future brilliance. Imagine how our lives would be transformed if each of us achieved this ideal of unwavering hope and undisturbed joy. It is achievable. It is necessary. This hope is not about losing our individuality in some impersonal light or vague unity, but rather about a deep and intimate union with God that enhances our personal consciousness. It is about being clothed in the splendor of God, with perfect knowledge, purity, and love. It is about shedding our weaknesses and gaining new strengths, uniting our will with what we ought to do and what we can do. It is about being justified and glorified, transformed into the image of that glorious divine being as we behold and reflect that same glory. What a wondrous and profound hope we have as Christians, a hope that fills us with passion and joy for the future that lies ahead. At the very core of Christianity lies the belief that the divine light, symbolized imperfectly by the Shekinah, has dwelled among us in the form of Christ. This light has been shared with us and will continue to be shared with us to the fullest extent possible within the limitations of this earthly existence. It points us towards a future where we will be perfected and united with Him, seeing Him as He truly is. Just as the three walked unharmed in the fiery furnace because they had the presence of one like the Son of God with them, so too will we dwell in the eternal fire of divine perfection, guided by Christ into His grace and glory. It is crucial that we focus on this highest conception of our future life, where we will not just experience rest and relief from earthly struggles, but will live in God's presence and share in His glory. Let us not get caught up in symbols or dwell on the limitations of this world, but instead aim for the ultimate truth that we will be filled with the presence of God Himself. This is the ultimate goal of our Christian hope, to be fully immersed in the love, purity, and knowledge of God for all eternity. The foundation of our hope is twofold. Consider how the progression of this message builds to a crescendo of faith and joy. It all begins with being justified by faith, leading to peace with God, granting us access to His grace, enabling us to stand in His presence, and ultimately allowing us to rejoice in the hope of His glorious promise. These truths, rooted in the revelation of Jesus, the Christ, illuminate the path to our eternal future. How could death possibly sever the bond between the soul that has experienced such deep connection with God? It is absurd to imagine that the physical realm could have any influence over the spiritual reality we have embraced. And not only that, it is inconceivable to a man who possesses these divine gifts that they could ever come to an end, for when we truly embrace these Christian emotions and blessings as our own, we cannot help but believe that they are not limited to a certain time or era, but are eternal. This belief, if not concrete proof, is a powerful indication that a man who feels he is destined for eternity because he has embraced the eternal is indeed correct. And when we examine these experiences themselves, we see that they are marked by a sense of incompleteness, hinting at a greater completeness yet to come. Just as the new moon hints at its full silver round, the Christian life hints at a time when all thwarted tendencies will be fulfilled. Like the green spikelet growing in the middle of brown clods foretells the golden ear of wheat, the Christian life now points towards the hope of God's glory. If you truly desire to illuminate the path ahead with a brilliant light of hope and faith, then ensure that your current state of Christianity is overflowing with peace with God, access into grace, and the unwavering stance that comes from these blessings. Just as a river in the valley shrinks when its mountain springs run dry, and swells when they are full, so too will our future Christian hope shine brighter when our present Christian life is at its richest. Take a deep look within yourselves. Is there anything that speaks of that glorious future? Anything that shows signs of greater potential and power? Anything resembling a tropical plant thriving in a cold climate, struggling to flourish but yielding only meager fruits? Just as reflecting telescopes reveal the stars in a mirror, prompting the observer to gaze upwards towards the heavens, look deep within your own souls to see if there are any reflections of the celestial beings circling the throne of God. But let's take a moment to focus on the second source of Christian hope as outlined by the Apostle. Paul explains that through trouble, we gain not only endurance, but also the courage to persist in our path despite challenges. This is the transformative power of trouble when faced with bravery. Although reality often leads us to impatience or paralysis in times of tribulation, the Apostle speaks of the ideal outcome, where trouble leads to patience, and patience to experience. It's a concept that may be hard to articulate in English, but essentially, trouble serves as a test of our faith, refining us like fire or separating us like chaff. If we endure with patience, we are not only approved but also prove the strength of our Christianity and our connection to Christ. Through perseverance in tribulation, we gain approval and a steadfast hope that the future will be as victorious as the past. With God's help, we can overcome every challenge until we finally reach the end of our troubles and enter into the glory of heaven. Beloved brothers and sisters, let us embrace the true perspective from which to view not only our tribulations, but all the challenges that come our way in life. These trials, whether in duty or in pleasure, are designed to deepen our faith and strengthen our connection with God. If we approach each change in life with this understanding, we will not be so easily shaken by our sorrows. Just as a surgeon's tools may seem frightening, they are necessary to remove what harms us. Similarly, our trials are meant to shape us, to draw us nearer to God and to fortify our character. If we allow them to do so, then let us praise every difficulty that brings us closer to a brighter hope. These two sources are like the blessedness of a Christian life and the sorrows of our earthly existence, intertwining to illuminate our Christian hope. Just as a rainbow is born from the union of sun and rain, so too is our hope derived from being justified by faith, finding peace with God, and entering into His grace. It is forged through tribulations that cultivate patience, and patience that leads to approval. Like sparks ignited by flint and steel, or flames ignited by the sun itself, both sources fuel the fire within us. And so, we are left with this undeniable truth: passion and perseverance are the keys to our ultimate fulfillment. The Christian should face all the challenges of life with one powerful emotion: joy. We should rejoice in hope, we should even glory in tribulation. It is crucial for us to understand the importance and privilege of always being glad. We have no right to be anxious or to wallow in sadness. Yes, there may be moments of sorrow in our Christian journey, and the world may see our joy as strange. But there are countless reasons for us to be joyful, if only we would open our eyes to see them. Even in the middle of sorrow, there can be a deep sense of peace and joy within us. We can be sorrowful, yet always rejoicing. We can rejoice greatly, even in the face of trials. When we look back on our lives and see how tribulations have led to hope, we can truly thank God for every step of the journey. Let us embrace joy as a Christian duty and privilege, and let it be the driving force in our lives. Now, the plain lesson of all this is just that we have here, in this message, a linked chain, one end of which is wrapped around our sinful hearts, and the other is fastened to the throne of God. You cannot drop any of the links, and you must begin at the beginning, if you are to be carried on to the end. If we are to have a joy immovable, we must have a steadfast hope. If we are to have a steadfast hope, we must have a present grace. If we are to have a present grace, and access to the fullness of God, we must have peace with God. If we are to have peace with God, we must have the condemnation and the guilt taken away. If we are to have the condemnation and the guilt taken away, Jesus, the Christ, must take them. If Jesus, the Christ, is to take them away, we must have faith in him. Then you can work it backward, and begin at your own end, and say, if I have faith in Jesus, the Christ, then every link of the chain in due succession will pass through my hand, and I shall have justifying, peace, access, the grace, erectness, hope, and exaltation, and at last he will lead me by the hand into the glory for which I dare to hope, the glory which the Father gave to him before the foundation of the world, and which he will give to me when the world has passed away. Let's break down what it means that perseverance shapes and strengthens our character, from Romans 5:1-4. Perseverance means not giving up, even when things are hard. It's the ability to keep going, to stay committed, and to endure difficulties patiently. How does perseverance shape character? 1. Facing challenges builds inner strength. When you go through tough times and don't give up, you learn important lessons. Each time you persevere, you prove to yourself that you can handle hardship. This repeated endurance builds confidence and maturity. 2. Refining values and priorities. Difficulties force us to examine what we really believe and value. As we persevere, our priorities are refined. We become less self-centered and more patient, humble, and compassionate toward others. 3. Developing trustworthiness and integrity. Sticking to your faith and values in hard times shows you are trustworthy and genuine. Others can see that your character is solid, not just when things are easy, but especially when things are tough. 4. Becoming more like Christ. In the Christian view, as we persevere in faith, we become more like Jesus, who endured great suffering with patience and love. This process, called sanctification, is about becoming stronger and better people. In summary, perseverance shapes and strengthens our character, because it teaches us endurance, patience, self-control, trust in God, and integrity. Each time we persevere, our character becomes more mature, reliable, and reflective of the values we hold. That's why Paul says perseverance produces character. It's through the struggle that we grow strong. Peace, now and always.